ROi Africa was astonished, like the rest of the nation, at the Springboks' loss in the opening game for the Rugby World Cup 2015. And it was interesting to watch our charts light up green over 24 hours after the match happened. So we always do an analysis weekly of all the news and social media that South Africans talk about and report on. So when we had a look at the charts for news media over 7 days, we found that the Rugby World Cup, South Africa in particular, came in at 50% of the week's coverage. And that's against other really big stories which traditionally dominate our charts, like Oscar Pistorius and Eskom. Oscar coming in at 2.64% against the Springboks, Eskom coming in at a meager 10%, which is very unusual for our news media. We also saw the Flabba court case coming into the spotlight. That was just under 6% in the week in news media. Then we switched the charts to social media to see what happened over the past week. And the Rugby World Cup, and South Africa in particular, dominated by almost 62% over a 7-day period. Oscar coming in at 7.49%, the Flabba court case coming in at 9.33%, and Eskom dropping to an all-time low of 3%. So with that statistic in mind, it made much better analysis to go and see what happened immediately after the match, and also to have a look at the sponsors involved in the Rugby World Cup as a whole, and then to look at brand South Africa and how it was being reported across the globe. So we had a look in first local news media. A whopping 72% reported by journalists over a 24-hour period after the match belonged to the Springbok coverage, and particularly to the loss. But when we switched that to social media, there was no other story. In fact, there were times where I personally couldn't get onto Twitter because literally the Springboks broke Twitter over that 24-hour period. They came in at 88.94% over that 24-hour period, literally wiping every other big story off the charts. So as a sponsor, it makes a lot of sense to now start analyzing what sort of sponsorship coverage was generated for the Rugby World Cup so far. Of course, there's a lot of build-up coverage, so we went back a full 100 days in our analysis, and we had a look at the sponsors and how they are receiving press. So the main sponsors involved are Heineken, DHL, Emirates, Land Rover, Societe Generale, and MasterCard. It was quite surprising for me to see that Heineken came in with a big 32% of the coverage, so almost a third of the coverage belongs to Heineken. The second largest sponsor of the event belongs to Emirates, coming in at 22.52%. So between those two sponsors alone, they've received half the Sponsor World Cup coverage. Please to just put it into perspective though, that we're not talking about live match branding or advertising. We're talking about editorial mention of those brands in relation to the World Cup. Third of the pile is Land Rover at 19.38%, and then DHL comes in at 14.22%. Quite surprising to see how low the MasterCard coverage is, coming in at 8.47%, and then Societe Generale at 3.41%. South Africa was on everybody's lips. There were some very funny things being said on Twitter and on social networks. It always astonishes me at how South Africans, specifically in a time of what could be called a tragedy, come back with really punchy social media responses. Some of the treasures I found over the period was the hashtag started trending "stronger than the box," and people started putting their own little take on the humor of the event. So we had some that said this brandy and coke is stronger than the box, the rand is stronger than the box, MTN's network is stronger than the box, the chances of Zuma paying back the money is stronger than the box. But overall, I think one of the most endearing things that came out of the Japanese win was South Africans' behavior on the ground in the UK. There was a big social media conversation surrounding the fact that once the game was over, Japanese and South African supporters were in trains and subways together, and the South Africans allowed the Japanese to exit the subway first, and they gave them an honorary guard as they left. So kudos to us South Africans, even though we lost so badly.